Great stuff. Good afternoon, everybody. As introduced, my name is Paul Morgan, and I have to say this is the first time I have ever done a conference where I have had headphones on, and I've got no idea whether people are listening to Beyoncé or me. So I'd like to check if anyone's actually listening. You can raise your right hand if you can actually hear what I'm saying. Okay, good. So it's great to see that technology works. That's kind of my role in life. Okay, so the title, what I'm going to be talking about is procurement analytics, so that may give you a little bit of a clue, big data and the price of washroom towels. Okay, so if you haven't worked it out, the theme is we're going to travel through a little bit of a procurement journey with those little things that you get from the dispensers in the bathroom, and just look at how we can analyze some of that information. This is supposed to be an introduction, a 101 to the world of analytics. So if you've been dealing with procurement analytics for the last 20 years, I completely appreciate that you can go back to sleep after lunch and just lie down and start snoring because no one can hear you because they've all got headphones on. So it's absolutely fine. If you haven't been introduced to this world before, hopefully you'll pick something up and we'll take you through. And I'll take questions as we go through or at the end, so it doesn't really matter. Feel free to stop me. Okay, we've kind of done this little bit. I think I've got better looking over the years. This was taken a few years. Again, raise your right hand. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about a couple of things. I've got to do an introduction to my company, so that comes as the first slide. And then I'm going to be just trying to introduce to you why bother with analytics. So you're all in procurement, you all have a busy day job ahead of you, you're worrying about things all the time. Surely you deal with Excel already and you've got reports coming out all over the place and they're stacked up at the back of the cupboard. Why should we care about analytics? What difference does it make to our lives? So that's what I'd like to go first of all. And then I'm going to go through 4 different areas that I think hopefully gives you an idea of slightly more and more complex ideas in analytics, and we can see how we get on. So I'm going to start off with some very simple stuff. I'm going to be looking at kind of whether individual buyers are compliant with contracts, so a little bit of an analytics there. Then we're going to start combining data from a variety of different sources, and we're going to see how the usage of these bathroom towels compares across different faculties. Then I'm going to introduce the idea of big data and some data science and artificial intelligence. So we'll see if we can move through all of that. And I think this theme came through this morning. Is everyone a little bit worried about their future in procurement? So I just want to reassure everybody that the robots might be coming, but they're very small, and we can handle them. Okay. All right, this is my 2-second pitch for the company that I work for. In case anyone hasn't rock climbed in their life, a carabiner is that little thing that kind of you bash into the rock and your ropes go through it. So the idea is that carabiner helps you go up the mountain. That's the idea. So we are a Microsoft partner, and my role is dealing with the data and analytics side of our company. So we offer services to our clients. I might not know what I'm talking about, but the company's been around for 20 years, and they've won an award from Microsoft for the last 13 years as the partner of the year in South Africa for data analytics and artificial intelligence. Okay, so they've been around a while. Okay, so let's get on with the show. First question, why bother with analytics at all? What's the point? Like I say, you've all got a day job to get to. Why should this make any difference in your lives? So if we look at the type of thing that you're involved in when you're dealing with procurement, it's generally a bit of an optimization process. You've got costs to consider, you've got quality of the product, you've got availability of the product, you've got supplier compliance, and there's a whole range of things to deal with. There's a lot going on. How does any of this make any difference to you? Okay, so there's probably 3 main areas that analytics can help with. 2 of them are looking at the past, looking at history, and 1 of them's looking at the future. So the first thing is, by taking all the individual transactions, so whether we're looking at something simple like purchase orders, we can consolidate and aggregate all those transactions to get a bird's eye view of what's happening across an environment as a complete view. And we're doing that so that we can measure performance against a specific standard. So whether that's for an individual buyer, are they getting it at the right price? Is it an individual supplier? Are we getting the best quality? Whatever it may be, you're generally measuring against some kind of target or SLA or contract, okay? So you want to be able to see not at necessarily an individual level, but at a high up level, how are these different entities comparing against what they're trying to achieve? Okay, so that's the first area. Then once we've got that information, once we've consolidated and we've got that bird's eye view, can we get a better understanding of what good and bad performance means? So if we didn't hit the target, so if a supplier didn't deliver on time, how can we drill down to that information and try and work out, did it happen at a specific campus? Was it a specific day of the week? Was it a specific period? What actually happened? And so we can start understanding that performance a little bit better. And analytics helps us do that. Then once we've got enough data, we can actually use that information to start predicting what's going to happen in the future. Okay, so this is the world of artificial intelligence and data science. And the concept really is that if you're able to look at a supplier's performance over time with delivery, can you predict how long it's going to take them to deliver based on their historic performance? That type of thing. Okay. Everyone with me so far? You can raise your left arm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The amazing power I have just standing up here. It's great. All right, let's carry on. I've got 33 minutes left. Just I'm going to finish before that. Okay. So we've got an image there of the towel dispenser. So you've got this fixed in your mind. I'm starting off with a very simple concept. And when I say contract compliance, I don't necessarily mean just contract compliance. Sometimes we're just looking to get the lowest price. So simple concept, we're comparing different buyers across the procurement department to see when we're buying one thing, these individual towels, is someone paying too much compared to what it should be? Or is he paying too much compared to his peers? Whatever the case may be. All right, so there's some kind of characteristics of this analysis. So first of all, it's usually from one single source of data. So whatever the purchasing system is, maybe that's in your ERP system, maybe it's something like SAP, Syspro, whatever the case may be. So it's relatively simple. You're only looking at historical data, so that's fairly straightforward. And you're able to slice and group that data by a variety of different perspectives. So in this case, we're probably looking at it by buyer, but it might be per month, per week, per day. It might be for different buildings, different campuses, whatever the case may be. And the important thing, the context is given by that comparison. So this is the price, and this is what they're paying. So they're above the price. So that's the context. You're trying to achieve something. Okay. Now the important thing to me when you're dealing with analytics, whether it's in a report or a dashboard, is that so what factor, which was the whole purpose of that first slide. So if you give me a picture like this that shows all the different comparisons for my buyers across the department, what do I do about it? So I can look at that, and it looks like some people have been paying too much and too little at various points in time. So the key thing to me is, what action can I take once I know? Okay, so I can't change the facts that have happened already, but I can talk to the individual buyers and maybe with some training or just with some clarification, make it clear that this performance is maybe not good enough. Your peers are outperforming you, they're buying cheaper or whatever the case may be. And this is the price you should be procuring at, and you need to do something about it. And then you can continually monitor that on an ongoing basis. Okay, so that's kind of the first type of example. And hopefully you've seen charts like this. And again, like I say, you generally are able to start slicing down into the information to see exactly where these problems are occurring. Okay. Second example is when we start getting a little bit more complex and we start combining data from different sources. So in our first example, we were comparing buyers. What we're trying to do now is monitor our internal customers, and this will probably be the faculty of arts, faculty of engineering, whatever the case may be. So we are centrally procuring a supply of washroom towels, and they're probably going to individual storerooms in different buildings, and then they're being used at each of those buildings on a basis as they go through the week. So how do we compare them? If we just have a number that says Faculty of Arts is spending 10,000 a week on washroom towels and Faculty of Engineering is spending 5,000 a week, what does that actually mean? Because obviously we've got to take into account the size of those faculties, the number of staff, so the lecturers, whoever else is involved, the admin staff, and the students who are actually in those buildings as well. So we're going to take, again, a very simple example. We're going to assume that each internal customer is in a separate building. Okay, so nice and straightforward. And the idea is that you take the spend for a period and you divide that by the number of people who are likely to be in and out of that building. Okay. So it is a more complicated example. You're going to be taking your purchasing history, again from your ERP, and you're going to be adding to that your employee details. So maybe that's from your payroll system. And you may be getting information about what's going on with your students as well. So maybe there's an enrollment system where you have to bring that data together. Okay. It is a historical view again, so you're still looking at the past. And the question is, again, what action can be taken? So if you get this type of information, so I think on the left we've got the engineering labs. Okay, so their ratio, so the cost per person that's expected to be in the building is whatever that is, 32 cents per person. And then we've got computer science, where the cost is much lower. What does that mean? What actions can you actually take as a person in procurement once you see this type of information? Again, going back to the point, analytics, you need to be able to take some kind of action. So does that mean that the cost is much higher in engineering is because they are more active, and as soon as a roll of towel gets finished, they immediately go and replace it? And the guys in the computer studies center, they have to wait, and they're kind of drying their hands on their shirts. Okay. In either case, it just means that there is an opportunity for procurement to get involved and start understanding what's going on with this usage. Okay. So we're not just looking at the numbers and ignoring it. The idea is we take action. You are helping reduce costs, optimizing the organization that you work in. That's the story. All right. Moving on to big data. Okay, you're wondering how I could fit the theme of big data into washroom towels. I'm going to stretch your credibility a little bit on this one. So you might have noticed we've moved our dispenser. So that was the old one. Okay. This is the new one with a button. Okay, very exciting. Which means this dispenser is connected to the internet. It's very exciting. Every time someone presses a button on this dispenser, there is a record created, a transaction created on a server somewhere, maybe on campus, maybe in the cloud, that says this particular dispenser dispensed one roll of towel at this time of day, and the location of this device was in wherever it is, whichever building it's in. Okay. And some of the more complicated machines can say when they've run out of paper and when they need a service and those kind of details as well. So again, maybe I'm stretching credulity a little bit to say that this is big data, but if you imagine that you've got a couple of hundred washrooms around a large campus and people are pressing the buttons on these things, and every single time one of those happens, you can imagine that you'd get thousands of transactions in a day. So compared to the number of purchase orders that you probably generate a day, this will be quite large, okay? And this accumulates and accumulates over the years, so that eventually you start having huge amounts of data. So this was the best example I could think of with washroom towels. In real life, or in alternative life, you can think of the example every time you're using Google Maps. So if you're driving from home to work and you get lost and you use Google Maps, okay, pretty much every second as you go along that journey, your position is being recorded on one of Google's servers. So if you can imagine millions of people using Google Maps across the world and all of them having their position recorded every second, that really is big data. Okay, so it makes our washroom towels a little bit smaller, but you get the idea. All right, who cares? Back to the point. The difference that you get when you're looking at this type of data is that you're able to start understanding usage. Okay, so we've moved from requisitions, where someone who's working in the caretaking staff maybe sends a requisition at the end of the week or the end of the month, we need another 50 rolls or whatever the case may be, to actually finding out exactly what is happening every minute of the day in terms of these individual machines. Okay? And when you start accumulating all of that information together, you can get a very good idea of what's actually going on across the campus in terms of the washroom towels. So again, just as an example of the type of charts and graphs that you'd be looking at, you can see here, we've got lots of peaks happening, and I imagine this is actually as people go in and out of lecture rooms. So at the break on the hour, everyone goes to the bathroom and they start using the towels. All right. What do you do with that information? What action can you take? What difference does it make to your life? So I think the point is that once you start understanding how people are using the things that you are buying for them to use, you can start understanding what you need to do about it. So some simple examples here. Maybe you can look at out of stock. You can start understanding when that happens, when it's about to happen. Maybe you can start looking at servicing those machines. Every 10,000 sheets or 50 rolls, you need to service the machine. So it gives you a much better idea of what's going on at a granular detail. So even though you could be viewing this at a very high level, you are able to drill down right to the lowest level. So with big data comes this whole area that everyone's getting a little bit scared about. So I've used the abbreviation ML. It's short for machine learning. You might have heard of data science, and I'm sure you've all heard of artificial intelligence. So it's all part of the same set of things. We're looking at a variety of maths algorithms and probability. And one of the most straightforward uses of that is trying to get understanding of what's going to happen in the future based on what's happened in the past. Okay. So we're still looking at our same example. Every time someone's pressing the button, it's recording that information. We're recording usage, not just movements of blocks of items. And then we can start taking this information into account. We can start dealing with the next step, which is automated reordering. Okay. At which point everyone goes, what the hell do I do then? Okay. All right. And of course, when you do automated reordering, you're going to have automatic contract compliance because it's going to fit in, it's going to work out the most optimum contract. Okay. So this is the type of example that you could see. I will get back to that point in a second, but you can see that we're looking at real-time stock values, we're monitoring what's going on, we're combining that with usage data, and then we're saying at a point, I don't know if this thing is working, no, you might be able to see that line that's going down there. So if we know that our normal supplier takes 2 days to deliver, that's our reorder point, and that can happen automatically. Okay. So do we panic and we say that's it, it's all over, the computers are going to do our job for us? Analytics is, that's it. Okay. So I'm trying to say that that's actually not the case. And the example that I wanted to use, I think, ties in quite nicely with what the speaker before me was talking about on this concept of sustainability. So when everyone is so busy that they are consolidating data and bringing data together and producing Excel spreadsheets, it's often very difficult to look up around you and see what's going on. The idea is that these analytics systems should free you from the drudgery of work and start raising procurement teams so they can start looking at other ways in which they can help the organization. So I apologize for the bathroom towel dispenser manufacturers that are here, because I see that Twin Saver is in the back of the place. But maybe procurement office needs to start thinking, well, perhaps should we be looking at paper towels as the way forward if we're concentrating on the green planet and sustainability going forward? The production of paper is probably one of the most polluting industries out there. Okay, so in case anyone hasn't thought about it, you take trees, which are generally brown, and you turn them into paper, which is generally white. Okay, and for that process to work, you need a lot of bleach. Okay, so it's corrosive and it gets back into the environment somewhere. So you need to be careful. If you're looking at the total cost of ownership of these items, maybe towels are not the right answer. Okay, you've also got to store them, they take up space. You've got to deliver them, so all that story about the turnaround time, how long does it take to get the suppliers to bring them on site? What do you do with the disposal of these towels? Okay, so again, there's another cost. There's a whole variety of things that are going on there. So if you can get that information about what's happening on campus and you can start understanding the costs a bit better, then isn't there the opportunity for you to start provoking discussion about alternatives? So I've used a simple example here, and again, sorry for using manufacturers. I didn't see Dyson here today, but that's, I'm sure some of you have used these, the air blade. So these are much better than the old-fashioned hot air dryers. You actually put your hand in the air blade, and it uses electricity, so a little bit concerned about coal. Maybe we can start looking at solar panels on the top of all the roofs across the buildings of the campus. So that picture there, that's the University of Kentucky. And they've pretty much got solar panels across all of their buildings, all the way around campus. Okay, so what I'm trying to suggest here is that you don't necessarily have to just do what you've always done in procurement. If you start looking at analytics systems, and obviously my background is Microsoft, but there's a variety of different tools out there. If you are able to get a head above water and see what's going on, you should have time for this type of analysis. And you can also do analysis to help you with your investigation. How do you cost solar panels plus the Dyson Airblade or whatever the case may be? All right. So that was my thought that I wanted to leave you with, and that's really all I've got to say. So hopefully that's at least got you thinking about the use of analytics within the organization, and it's a little bit more than just churning out the traditional reports. Okay, thank you very much.